We are heading into a premier matchup here in Group B, the LFL versus the Ultraliga. If you watched the European Masters throughout 2020, you'll know that that is a rivalry that has been stoked and stoked over and over again, and it came to full fruition throughout the course of our 2 European Masters last year. But it is back in full force. It is the Misfits Premier. They're going up against AGO Rogue, the defending champions. Misfits Premier, last time round, got the edge. Last week, they picked up that win versus AGO Rogue. It was not an easy win. It was a long game, but it was very exciting. Misfits Premier hoping to make it a little bit easier this time round.
And there's the excitement in one clip for you right there. God, and Orianna Baron still. There was just so much action. Like, I'm going to go ahead and say, like, that was the most fun I've had watching the E-Masters game in a very, very long time. Probably since I got to cast Insec doing an Insec. But, you know, that's that's going to be hard to beat, to be honest. And, of course, it ended in great fashion, too, with the backdoor coming in from Woolite. So a lot of action, that one, a lot of fun. And Misfits Premier having that early game advantage. Rogue hanging on, but Misfits still being able to bring out the W.
Yeah, and Misfits got off to a classic start as well. Like, they were just super aggressive, taking every advantage that they could get. And they put a lot of pressure on Rogue, who we genuinely thought, in that game, we thought they're going to come back. Like, they've got the Baron Steel, they've delayed the Dragon Soul, they're really keeping this game on its edge. But Misfits Premier with an excellent play at the end there. You saw it. The Gnar to distract while Woolite went for the backdoor with the Tristana. It had everything, that game. It really did. I'm hoping this second meeting lives up to the sort of what I feel was the best game of the European Masters so far. But obviously, we just don't know. We'll have to see how we go when we get to the draft phase. We'll have to see which kind of comps are drafted and what style of comps we see coming through. But I think there is a really clear story when you see these two teams match up. Misfits Premier, they like to be aggressive. They like to take the early game. They like to snowball. AGO Rogue, they like to stall. They like to build to the late game, and they have these big, strong late game team fight scaling comps.
And both teams are very good at their certain styles as well. I think it kind of reflects their regions as well. We've got Karmine Corps as well from the LFL, the #1 seed. Another absolutely dominant early game team. Two of the 3 sub 30-minute teams in the E-Masters are Misfits and Karmine Corps, like the 2 French teams. So yeah, both of these teams, they hit the ground running. And I think the Polish teams have been a little bit slower so far in E-Masters, but still, you know, finding some success. And Rogue, as you mentioned, both these teams are 2-1, right? And these are the teams that we were expecting to get it out of this group. And I think the expectations are probably still there, but I would also say, like, a lot depends on this specific matchup right now, because SupUp are definitely banging on the doors, and you cannot afford to count them out.
I think a win here would keep one of these teams relatively secure. Like, a win here would put them at 3-1, and with SupUp now being 1-2 and G2 Arctic being 1-3 and G2 Arctic being 1-3 as well, you're looking at a situation where if you get to 3 wins, the minimum you can expect is a tiebreaker, realistically, for one of those top 2 spots. So a win here would be pretty huge for AGO Rogue and Misfits Premier, especially for just giving them that weight off their shoulders that getting out of groups could feel relatively good for them. We've seen the bans come through now. Actually, AGO Rogue's coach is Clyback. If you remember him, a support player. Used to play on Fnatic a little bit, but he's actually now the coach for AGO Rogue. So having a lot of success with that team over in the Ultraliga. Lots of support bans going towards Jactroll. This was the same strategy employed last time by AGO Rogue. Jactroll was very much a target for these early bans from the AGO Rogue team.
And then Lucky is a target for Misfits as well, which again is pretty common. I think Lucky has been Rogue's best player, I would say, so far. Or at least their most consistent carry. And Kai'Sa is most played champion domestically. Tristana's up there as well, alongside being a very strong pick in the current meta. And Syndra, one of the most played champs again from Chres, who is ex-Senkux, changed his name, he's now Chres. And I think he's been playing really well too, actually, to be fair. But it's going to be Hecarim for that lock-in first pick. Probably the strongest jungler we have open right now. Does leave the likes of the Volibear and the Udyr available if we want to see those get handshaked across.
Yeah, it looks like Misfits are going to lock in the Varus, though, for Woolite. This is something that we have seen a lot of teams start to adopt throughout the European Masters. Has that ability to be aggressive post-level 6 as well. We saw X-Mati pop off on it. We've seen Deadly pop off on it. So it is something that some of the players have really kind of made work in their favor this European Masters.
Yeah, but Seraphine's open, BT dubs.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of Seraphine because it's banned away pretty much all the time. And I'm curious, I think Seraphine matches up really nicely with a champion like Hecarim, but would you want to play it into Varus, Rell? Some good engage on that side there. And I think if Seraphine does have a weakness, it's getting hard engaged on, especially if Misfits were to pair that up with an aggressive jungler or more ganking style jungler. To be honest, a lot of the meta junglers that are left open here could put a lot of pressure on into a lane, and so I think it would be a pretty scary lane to play if you were going to lock in that Seraphine. Assuming you want to take it bot, of course. You could decide to take it mid. It is a pretty strong flex pick. But for now, it's just going to be the Alistar answering into the Rell. Very, very common answer right there. And if we get the AD carry here, then we won't get pinched in second ban phase, but Orianna is probably the strongest mid laner available right now. Chres has played it. He played it in their last matchup. As you saw, he got a Baron steal with Orianna last time these two played. And with that Syndra ban as well, I think she should have some fairly good matchups, and Tristana ban too.
Yeah, and also we know how powerful the combo between the Orianna and the Renekton, the Hecarim is. So you just shove that ball on the horse goes in, you find a good shockwave location, good shockwave target. It's just a very tried and tested combo. As you said, the handshake could come through here. The Udyr does get locked in for Shlatan. I was half hoping for Shlatan just to show us his Lee Sin, because we have seen a little bit of Lee Sin in this European Masters, and it has gone relatively well. So there's a little part of me that was hoping for the Lee Sin from Shlatan, but it just will be the Udyr, the handshake in terms of the farming junglers. Very, very common in this current meta. And as you said, the AD carry pool is about to be pinched with the Xayah ban. I wouldn't be surprised to see another one come through from Misfits Premier on the second ban phase.
It's going to be interesting here about these AD carry bans is, as I mentioned, that FLICKR I think has been Rogue's best carry, and you're really making him play like he's going to have to play his like 5th string AD carry at this point, assuming this is another AD carry ban. And so he's really delving deep into his pockets here, trying to find a carry that he can play with. So we'll have to decide. Yeah, so Vayne works well into low range, and Varus is like either high range or low range depending on whether he goes auto attack build like we saw Xmati do, or if he goes for a lethality build, in which case he would be much longer range. But I think honestly into like Udyr and Rell, Vayne is pretty underrated. Either way, that's going to get taken away here. Let's see what Misfits decide to pick up for their second rotations. It's going to be the Zoe into Orianna. Okay,
I'm getting the feeling this could be a lethality Varus. We've seen this comp before actually. And this comp got ran last week where it was very heavy poke and very heavy pick. You just had the star paddle and the Varus arrow just coming out over and over again to try and find those individual picks. So we'll have to see. I mean, it's a comp that clearly can work, but it's a little one-dimensional in that sense. We'll see where Rogue used to go. Classic Rogue. I mean, this is scaling to a T. Orianna and the Sivir, they'll go for the blind Gnar in the top lane as well, but this is a classic Rogue comp. And Misfits Premier, they are looking to do a lot more early. I mean, this is absolutely quintessential, I think, drafts for both of these teams right now. We'll see where Agresivoo chooses to go in the top lane. There are a couple of picks up that could work. Things like the Renekton and the Aatrox, the Jayce. Oh my goodness.
I was
thinking, is he gonna do it?
I was thinking he is. Okay, beautiful stuff. So I was thinking there's two directions you can go here. You either play the Aatrox, more of that like running people down, get that front line going through, someone who can collapse alongside the Udyr and the Rell, or you decide to really take it to the Gnar lane and pick that Jayce. I feel like you have a pretty good jungle matchup as well in order to get some backup on that. If the Jayce stomps his lane, it's great. You know, if you can help him to do that, then this pick into Gnar is really, really effective. However, having said that, I do think this Jayce pick, as the game goes on, is going to fall off because Jayce's usefulness becomes less of like a lane bully as the lane phase ends. Funny how that works. And becomes much more focused towards the poke. And whereas, yeah, you have a lot of great poke on the side of Misfits. Zoe, lethality Varus, assuming this is lethality. But either way, Zoe, Varus, Jayce, you got a lot of poke, but also a lot of targets to soak up that poke who are going to be tanky and standing in front of their teammates, like the Alistar, the Hecarim, and that Gnar.
I feel like if Misfits do what Misfits do best, which is just accelerate the game, take control of the early game, and generate a good gold lead, like this is a comp that will run you over because even your soaking targets will be one shots. You know, you'll get one shot by the Varus, the Zoe, and the Jayce. But it does feel a little one-dimensional for Misfits. Like they have a game plan. If that game plan doesn't work, they kind of get countered by the late game comp that Rogue are running.
I do wonder how Misfits will answer the engage from Rogue specifically when you have the Orianna ball on top of Hecarim running at 10,000 miles an hour with Ghost and Chem Tank, plus the Sivir ulti. Like, what kind of protection do you have to stop that? How do you stop that from getting onto someone like Zoe, someone like Varus? Honestly, outside your summoners, I don't think you have a good answer. So that could be pretty scary. You know, if that team, if Rogue find themselves in a situation where they're able to make the proactive plays, then I think Misfits are going to really struggle, and that poke is going to be mega useless. It's just not going to do anything straight up. And I do think this is a smart adaptation here from Woolite. I'm fairly certain this is going to be an auto attack based Varus build, so like Kraken Slayer, that kind of thing. Because I just think, honestly, if you are full poke here, that would really not be ideal.
Yeah, that would be the worry for me. Like you essentially, as we said, that runs you a little bit one-dimensional. And obviously Jayce can split push. He has that ability to take towers relatively quickly. They always have that element to their comp that we could consider. But you know, when you look at it realistically, you have got Arrow into Paddle Star into Shock Blast. That's what you're looking to do over and over and over again, and you're just trying to sort of limit targets, take down targets before fights even begin. The worry that I have is like, if you don't get that going quickly enough, and if you get to like 25-30 minutes in the game and you don't have a significantly strong or a significant lead to work with, like Rogue have that hard engage to deal with you. Rogue have that pure team fight, a monster capability where they can just run you down in those team fight situations. Interestingly enough, take a look at the summoner spell choices from Chres and FLICKR, both running cleanse this game round.
Stops the engage coming through from a Zoe bubble or even the Varus chains. As that game goes on, you know, if Misfits are able to walk up and catch people out of position, their ability to collapse on top of that target is really, really strong. So Cleanse is going to be able to nullify that just a teeny weeny little bit. So we get a little bit of a trade here in the bot side. Alistar into Rell. Not really a huge amount going to happen here. As we are, you know, two minutes into this game, we're just taking a look at basically how these two teams are going to play the early game, because obviously there's a huge amount of scaling on the side of Rogue. You got Sivir, you got Orianna. These two champions are like two of the four horsemen of scaling. You know, maybe if you could chuck in a Corki somewhere or like an Azir and just have like three mid laners, maybe that's the four horsemen. Either way, like, it's just, you know, Rogue's trying to go late. They're trying to play for team fights. Misfits, on the other hand, do think they have a lot more proactive stuff in that early game, and that's really reflective of their stats so far in EU Masters with how these teams play in that early game. Look at that goal difference at 15 minutes, plus 5k for Misfits Premier, minus 1k for Rogue. That is I mean, plus 5k by itself is astounding, by the way. The fact that, you know, these teams obviously have clear goals in mind for the early game, and the way they draft around that as well. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that in this matchup as well.
And I just want to reiterate, these teams are equal on scoreline. They're both 2-1. So even though Rogue have been 1,000 gold down at 15, it plays into the way that they attempt to play the game. That they play towards their strengths in the late game. They are very good at stalling. Like, being 1,000 gold down at 15 doesn't bother them. And Misfits, they've won their games by just being absolutely astronomically ahead and just snowballing that early game. It didn't work versus Sup through some good, you know, comeback play from Sup, but also I would say some mistakes from Misfits in general as well. But you can just see the dichotomy of how these teams like to play the game. It couldn't be more starkly different.
We saw it in their first game as well, right? Even though Misfits were able to put out the win, it was exactly as Misfits and Rogue, like how we built it up and how we expected. Really strong early game for Misfits. Rogue come back into the game, but it was Misfits in the end who were able to actually pick up the victory there. And I honestly think, you know, with these team comps, we should be seeing a similar amount. I'll just take a look at the actual states of the lane right here. Rogue's going to be pushing into Misfits. Lurox is just shadowing this position right here, just in case an Udyr shows up. But unbeknownst to him, Udyr is just a happy camper clearing his entire jungle. He already double crabbed Lurox. So Lurox actually at this point, I mean, look at that. Look at the CS difference already. Like, both of these champions are just right. It's mahoosive. it's way too big than an Udyr Hecarim matchup should be, and I think a lot of that is because with the, well, like I say, it's the double scuttle and then trying to hover around bot side. Just the amount of tempo Shlatan has, he's now moving into the top jungle as well as Rogue's getting engaged on bot.
Yeah, Pyrka actually forced. Oh, first blood comes through. Woolite finds it. The flash means nothing, and now Shlatan's waiting in the wings, straight onto Lurox, who doesn't have that flash to get away. Agresivoo picks up the kill. Misfits, true to their name, start off with a bang.
The early game kings right there, and Shlatan is now going to put even more pain onto Lurox and close this gap or widen this gap, I should say, sorry, even further right here. You see that ward by the chicken camp? That's the MVP of that play, by the way. They saw where Lurox was. They saw him taking his chickens, and then they saw him rotate over to the top. And Shlatan, with that advantage, got to move on in. We're going to see the Alistar here, though. A little bit squishy before you reach level 6. If you're able to just catch him out of position, get that engage, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, because you got the push in top side, because Shlatan has been able to farm all of his camps, because he's just had the pace on that. Like, he's just been farming, so he's ahead in tempo on Lurox. That means you get an easy collapse right there. And as you mentioned, no flash, no saving your life.
2-level advantage for Shlatan as well. That's yes lead widening also as he's been able to be super aggressive into Lurox's jungle. This is not looking good for Ago Rogue, but as we said, they're used to it. I wouldn't say that they're used to going this far down in this point in the game, but they are used to it.
Yeah, so it's not the end of the world for these guys, absolutely. At least it should be enough to keep you interested in watching. This is not a game that you want to turn off and be like, this game's unwinnable, go next. There's no point watching. And then on Twitter, like 20 minutes later when the game isn't actually over, you're like, oh my goodness, how did they win? Misfits are hard trolling, oh my goodness. That is the classic League of Legends way of life. But I think for this one, you got to stay tuned, because Rogue definitely have experience playing in these positions. Shlatan, having experience invading the jungle from Rogue, is doing it again. He's trying to get to this red buff on the spawn. There it is. And there's nothing that Misfits can do about this, but a good answer here from Lurox to go into the top side of the jungle instead. To be like, you know what, you can have that. I can't stop it. My team can't help me. I'm just going to go where you're not and do my best at salvaging some fun.
There isn't any ward coverage on that red side jungle entrance for Lurox either. So he's not completely spotted out right now. Looks like he is heading up towards the top lane, so they'll know that he has come through that part of the map. And Lurox he's getting forced away from the ward by Agresivoo as well, who has actually gone relatively even with Sinmivak in the top lane as of yet. I mean, Sinmivak hasn't yet fallen too far behind, despite that early kill going over to Agresivoo. Rogue are just trying to stabilize as much as they can, and Misfits probably just willing to fight for every neutral objective here to keep that pressure on. The Rift Herald is spawning soon, and you can see some pings coming out from Shlatan towards that objective.
They're going to be rotating towards, exactly as you mentioned, rotating through the mid lane, get that push in, get that pyro, then move straight up to the Herald. Something that we see a lot from Misfits in the way that they play is they often, they focus the early objectives pretty much on spawn, on tempo, as you would expect from a team that gets early game advantages. But something that they do on top of that is say that they can get like 2 or 3 dragons early, like really, really early, and set themselves on pace like a 22-minute soul. Instead of actually just proper hamming it up for that soul, what they'll do is they'll sacrifice the 3rd dragon or the 4th dragon, give that over to the opponents, so the opponents picked up like their first dragon and basically stalled Misfits soul out. But instead what Misfits will do is they'll like take mid tower or something like that, you know, they'll get like a fight in another side of the map. And so they're really good at kind of keeping advantages as far as gold leads go, golden experience, because they don't necessarily rush towards that dragon soul as fast as possible, and they play off the fact that they know their opponents are going to be desperate to stop them taking dragons so early, and they use that to get other stuff on the map.
Yeah, and we saw it in action in that last game between these two teams. The soul was delayed so long because Misfits were just trying to take everything they could whilst that soul became significant enough of a threat for Misfits. I actually noticed Agresivoo really ramping up that damage, but also we're seeing as this dive was he's threatening it. They're threatening it, but they're not. I think they might even be able to get first turret here if they drop the Rift Herald.
He's holding on to it. Shlatan is holding on to that Rift Herald for long enough that would imply that he's waiting for this to get down to like 2.5 plates before he slaps it down. That is the optimal play if you do want to take that tower, but it looks like he's not going to do that. I think honestly this is actually pretty smart for 2 reasons. Firstly, if you break that top tower this early, you kind of end laning phase in the top side, and that's where Jayce wants to get an advantage. You don't really want to leave that lane or like, you know, swap out of it. But also, I think that there's a benefit of having this Rift Herald be chucked down in bot lane, or maybe even use it to unlock. Sorry, chuck it down in mid lane, excuse me, or maybe even use it to unlock Woolite and Jactroll, because I think, you know, trying to get that mid tower is more important. You can use it as this next dragon spawns as well to make it even harder for the enemy team to contest. Trying to break a tower against Sivir and Orianna is also pretty hard, you know, so I think there are definite reasons to hold on to it for here. We'll see what Shlatan decides to do with that Herald.
Shlatan already finished up his mythic, by the way. The chem tank is activated and ready to go. So we've got a speedy Udyr already on the board. As you said, though, now Chres the target. They're going in. That's an immediate cleanse from Chres. That'll keep himself alive. Won't get slept up. He's trying to clear that wave as best he can. But Jactroll is there, dives in straight onto him, stunned up, ready to go. And they'll take him down. They'll drop the Rift Herald in the meantime. That might even just be first tower of the game in the mid lane. Picked up here for Misfits. They have got an Alistar rotating over, but that won't be enough. First tower drops, and that is a wonderful dive from Misfits to kick things off.
Perfectly played there by Misfits. The team synergy of the French teams in general we've seen so far from E-Masters has been pretty sublime, I'll be honest. And being able to make a play like that, you know, not only gets you a kill, denies the CS from your opponents, but also, you know, that first blood tower plus all those plates, that's huge. And a 3k gold lead already at 11 minutes into the game, absolutely massive, and exactly where Misfits want to be. And really, it's all because like Woolite and Jactroll are able to leave their lane. A lot of these players, especially when they picked up that first Herald, when they went for that play as well, it all started because Jactroll and Woolite were able to push in their bot lane and leave. And I think having such a strong bot, like, is just really core to how Misfits play and for how they find their success.
I think they've got 3 prio lanes here as well. Like, you've got the prio from Agresivoo in Sinmivak. That Jayce versus Gnar matchup should go relatively well for Jayce in the laning phase. Like, Zoe into Orianna, you can shove her in. And as you said, Woolite and Jactroll just able to completely dominate that bot lane matchup. And that's allowed Shlatan to be super aggressive in the early game and get that pressure versus Lurox, get those edges over Lurox in the jungle. And really, Rogue haven't had a look in because they drafted this way intentionally, but Misfits are just too good to let them get away with it.
They are for now, Kieran. For now.
For now.
This is yes. It, right? So this is kind of just how these two teams play, and we've said it so many times. I feel like a broken record, but legit, like, Rogue isn't necessarily out of their comfort zone right here, and there are still some positives. If you take a look at the CS, for example, it's pretty equal across the board. They're not like falling massively behind in that sense. Lurox here should be able to catch out Agresivoo.
Yeah, he does get flashed away under tower, so he is comfortable here. And Agresivoo will remain comfortable in the laning phase. Nothing major happening. In the meantime, Woolite and Jactroll have got complete dominance. They've got 3 plates down by themselves on that bottom side of the map now.
And of course, Woolite and Jactroll leaving bot lane, setting up Shlatan, moving around the map. Honestly, it's a jungler's dream right here. Straight up. They're actually going to get an engage as well.
Oh, the magnet still comes through. There comes the ultimate from Woolite. They should take down FLICKR, who drops immediately. Now Pyrka next on the target. Sertuss will sleep him up from distance.
Oh, no!
Oh, no! No! Oh, Sertuss, please. He gets the basic attack. That was a little awkward, but he picks up the kill. And Misfits Premier, they are on that 5k hype. Their average gold lead being maintained as we head towards that 15-minute mark. It may even get further than that if they're able to pick up some more objectives on the map.
Perfect stuff here from Misfits, able to transition their lane pressure into map pressure. And that's a great engage from Jactroll, just jumping over the wall, able to catch out the bot lane from Rogue. Really just adding more to that gold total here. And yeah, maybe a little bit awkward there from Sertuss, but it's all good. He's just playing the stylistic game. I mean, imagine how tilted you'd be if you were Alistar. Oh my goodness, this Zoe's so terrible, she still kills me. And then you just then that's it. Then it's mid diff, then it's team diff, and then that's it. You know, that's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope in League of Legends. I can't imagine, even with those pajamas on, I imagine obviously he's gonna get some pretty aggy soon.
Oh no, I mean, this is nightmare scenario for Rogue. Not that they haven't been in this scenario before, but they need to do something to stem the bleeding. Like, Misfits will just run over this game if they're allowed to, and the next Rift Herald up as well, that surely will be another target for Misfits to sort of focus down. They've got 2 Drakes on the board, 2 minutes until the third one spawns. I mean, we are looking at a very early soul timer here too. Misfits are just kings of accelerating their early game leads, and there's nothing. I mean, Rogue drafted away from it. Rogue didn't draft for the early game. We said it. They drafted towards their strengths, which is that late game team fighting. But Misfits hopefully not going to make the same mistakes they made last time. They wanted to end this one quickly.
There it is again. Woolite and Jactroll, excuse me, left the bot side, rotate to top side, and look where Shlatan is, playing around his strong lane. This is a really, really smart idea to do, by the way, if you're playing solo queue as a jungler and you're wondering where you should go, what you should do. If you want to have the most success, just find someone on your team who's strong and play around them. And it's happening, you know, and there's a reason why, statistically speaking, Woolite and Jactroll have absolutely insane kill participation numbers. They're both above like 70%, whereas the rest of their team isn't even at 60. You know, like, this is just how it works. You know, like, Rogue just plays through their bot lane. Woolite has always been just so dominant in the ERLs as a laner. Like he is, every single team he finds himself on, every single duo partner he has, he's just stomping lane, and it's just how it is. Like, that's just what this guy does. You always got to keep your eye on him. And I think when you combine it with smart macros, smart map movements, like Misfits are able to showcase in this game especially, like, it makes for a really, really scary team.
And you got to remember that this is a matchup that, especially region matchup, that we saw so much of in 2020, where, you know, the LFL were able to get the edge in spring 2020, but then the Ultra League came back and found their win, and in summer 2020, AGO Rogue specifically were the team that were able to do that. And this is a lot of, like, there's been a lot of hype between those matchups between the LFL and the Ultra League over the course of the last European Masters. And this is that first taster of it. I know this is only in the group stage, but you are getting a feel for these two regions and how they're performing and what kind of styles that they're playing towards. And as you said, Carmine Corp and Misfits Premier have a very similar style of play. Now, Jactroll could be the target here. There comes the onslaught shot as Jactroll dodges it out by diving into the fight. Here comes the ultimate from Woolite as the flash across the wall takes Lurox very low. Jactroll escapes as well. And both teams are going to shake hands and back off.
And just on schedule, around this time in the game, Misfits look like they might be a little bit out of position, and Rogue looking to punish. Unfortunately for Rogue in this scenario, they're just a little bit too far behind. They're not able to make that pick. Oh my goodness, he's dead. He's gone.
He's absolutely gone.
Honestly.
I know, Zoe.
Honestly, that's just like... Okay, well, there's a shockwave in mid. I don't think it's going to do a huge amount. Shelly's still going to be able to take that tower down. That's 2 mid towers now for Misfits. Mid towers are always nice because they enable you to walk into the enemy jungle pretty free. You don't have to worry too much about the positions of the lanes, because it's always going to be pushing towards the enemy side of the map with those towers being dead. And now, 17 minutes into the game, pretty much 18 is the third dragon, setting up here for that Mountain Soul. Pretty soon here, we're going to have to start being a bit more proactive, because they're running out of time.
I just want to point you towards some item builds now here, Foxy, because we thought this might be a lethality Varus. We thought it might be going down more the poke orientated route, but we see Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dancer finished up for Woolite. So more on hit, and that gives them, especially now that they're ahead, it gives them a way to play out those shorter range team fights. It gives them an exit, a win condition to play around in those shorter range team fights as well. And Woolite, being as strong as he is, you know, even with the, I would say, inferior like team fight comp, because they're this far ahead and because Woolite's on this build, they should be able to duel effectively in team fights versus AGO Rogue.
I think you're spot on, honestly. As soon as we saw the lethal tempo as we loaded into game, you know, the fact that this was going to be like an auto attack focused Varus build was kind of more prominent, and I think it was a really smart adaptation, because I don't think having 3 poke champions is necessarily smart. We said it was a bit too much of a one-trick pony, and on top of that as well, if you're trying to deal with people like Gnar jumping in your face, Hecarim jumping in your face, even someone like Alistar, it's so much better to have this kind of build, so much better. But Rogue look like they're going to get caught out of position here.
I mean, Shlatan gets knocked up. He'll be forced to flush away towards Jactroll. There comes the onslaught of shadows, but Udyr is running the right way to exit from the team fight. Now Jactroll locked up. There comes the Magnet Storm. He's taken low, but he's not dead. And the poke is starting to come through from Misfits. Jactroll will drop to FLICKR. Misfits can't actually bite back. Rogue will pick up 1 kill off the back of that fight.
First kill of the game here for Rogue. Starting to turn up the heat just a teeny weeny little bit, and Misfits are going to have to start respecting this because you're not infallible. You have been in this situation before. You have lost your advantage coming out of a really strong early game. It wouldn't be the first time this would happen if Misfits were to throw. Obviously, just a 1 kill. This is not a throw at this point. But hopefully this is like, you know, when you dip your toe in a hot bath and it's like, ow, that's kind of hot, I'm going to run some more cold water. You didn't burn yourself, but you got the warning needed before you burn yourself. And for Misfits, they have to be careful of that before they do scold their pinky toe.
Just listening to the way you were trying to round that sentence out tickled me. I like. We got 2 minutes until the next dragon. That is soul. That is something that Aegir Rogue are going to have to fight for. You know, Misfits now know that they probably can't walk and just like randomly 1v4 in the jungle, as Shlatan was attempting to do so. That's the drowsy landing onto Pyrka. Immediately the Unbreakable comes through, trying to buy his time as he gets out of the fight, but he'll drop to the Ignite. Sertuss picks up the kill, and now he has a kill back. 1 for nothing for Misfits Premier. What can they do with that, though? I mean, is it enough to threaten Baron here, Foxy?
Ooh, I don't think so. I don't think so, but they do have a pretty fast Baron take with Varus and with Jayce, plus Udyr. And the thing is as well, they set up such good vision that if Rogue try to face check this area and take control of the river, Misfits just throw out loads of skill shots and it becomes really, really hard to deal with.
Sinmivak is only half HP, and I think Misfits are very happy to just walk away from this one. Don't want to take the fight, and they weren't taking Baron quickly enough. Now Rogue, looking like they have the inside track on the mid lane here, could potentially pick up a mid lane tier 1 for that Baron attempt.
I think that was a little bit too much. Sertuss, so he's quite out of position.
Yeah, Sertuss got out of position immediately. The onslaught of shadows comes through as there's the exhaust. Sertuss trying to buy some time as he flashes over the wall. But the inside track is still there for that mid lane tier 1.
All right, Rogue able to bite it back a little bit. They should be able to get this tower, though. I actually don't think they're going to get it. I think FLICKR might have to run. No, he's going to get it. Tell a lie, he's going to get that. Opens up the map a little bit there for Rogue. That's just what the doctor ordered. I do think a little bit greedy there from Misfits to try and take that Baron down, especially since the last time these two teams faced, we all know what happened when Misfits went for an early Baron. Chres on the Orianna stole it with a QW combo. A little bit harder to do when you're on reverse positions of this map. Can't just hide behind that wall and throw out your ball. But either way, something you're going to have to respect if you are Misfits. 30 seconds now until this Mountain Soul. And this is where the game's going to blow up.
Rogue need to contest this, as you said. Misfits have got that 1 dragon to pick up, and the soul is theirs. Mountain Soul, it's not a game ender, but it will be very nice versus this team fight comp from Rogue, giving them that extra little edge, that extra little barrier. As Sertuss jumps over the wall, can't get punished. Chres already taken low. Woolite's arrow's not doing as much, but he will use the ultimate just to disengage from Sinmivak, who takes a bunch of HP, and now he's dropped down asleep. Rogue already taking damage before this team fight has even opened up, and that was the point of this Misfits comp, to do the work before the team fights even open up here. And now Rogue are under pressure. They have to find a way into this Dragon Pit. They don't want to lose this. Maybe looking for a steal. As you can see, Jactroll on the front line, just looking for that opportunity to dive in with the Magnet Storm. You can see Pyrka now in the pit buying time. He'll get stunned up. Rogue are forced to back away. They're taking too much damage before this fight even starts. Now Pyrka knocks up Agresivoo, but there is the Mountain Soul. Onslaught Shadows is through, and Agresivoo will drop to Sinmivak. There's the shockwave. Rogue able to trade back very nicely as the Pulverize comes through. The Gnar is there. How can they follow up on this? They just don't have the damage. Double kill for Woolite, and they should be able to get a triple here as Sertuss picks up the final blow. Chres zoned away. He can't get through that bubble, and he's forced to flash. It looked good for Rogue, but the damage was not there.
Both these teams trying desperately to take that dragon down. Rogue knew that it was going to be the soul. They had to try and do something about it. But look at the poke damage that's coming through. Keep your eye on Lurox especially, because Lurox actually doesn't have his ulti here. It's just about to come up, but the fact that it's not up means he has to position just like this, running into and towards Misfits if he wants any chance of getting towards that dragon. And look how quickly that ultimate was about to come up. He got it right as that dragon died. It's like perfect timing there for Misfits to avoid it. But man, if he had the ulti up, I think that looks a lot different, because I think they might just be able to play for more of a steal with that onslaught of shadows. But a really nicely played team fight here from Misfits, because I think, you know, when you're this far ahead, it's really hard to lose a team fight like this. Misfits know that, Great stopwatch there from Woolite as well to save him from that Gnar. And all in all, Misfits accelerating this early lead a lot smoother and a lot cleaner than we've seen them so far in EUM.
Yeah, 7,000 gold, really the lead for Misfits Premier right now. 4 dragons with the Mountain Soul confirmed. As I said, just gives it that little extra barrier, that little extra edge versus that initial teamfight comp damage coming through. The burst from the Orianna, the ricochet damage from the Sivir, that will be dampened ever so slightly by the pickup of this Soul. And especially when you're running a slightly, you know, I would say inferior teamfight comp, any kind of dampening that you can get as this game progresses into the late game is going to be good for Misfits Premier. It's going to essentially allow them to win more in these team fights if they need to. As they start up this Baron, they are happy for Rogue to face check into them. The Shock Blast takes 1/3 of Chres's HP away. The arrows coming out, the bubbles coming through. I mean, Rogue cannot get close right now. Maybe Lurox looking for a steal as he gets slept up in the red side jungle of Misfits Premier. And actually, Misfits, they're not going to commit. They're looking for the engage.
And this is the difficulty of trying to retake the map, playing versus all of this poke. Like, you're just blind to what's going on, and so many skill shots are being thrown towards you, whether it's a Shock Blast, Paddle Star.
Jactroll, he might be out of position here. The Magnet Storm comes through, but Jactroll taken very low. Won't drop just. How is he still alive? The Onslaught of Shadows comes through to knock him down, but he survived way too long. The backline's already dead. And Misfits Premier, a triple kill on the Zoe, and their teleports are coming through. They are rushing down the top lane.
It's going to be an ace here for Misfits. Everyone on the side of Rogue is dead. 26 minutes into the game. The death timers aren't that long, but they should be long enough to get this inhibitor. As you can see, half of Misfits now splitting off to start up that Baron. This is going to be inhibitor plus Baron plus a 1 team fight. If there was anything else Misfits wanted in this game, I think they just about found it. 10,000 gold in the lead right now. 26 minutes in. A dominant game so far from the French seed.
I mean, and it played out exactly as you said, Foxy. Like, that one stats graphic, I don't even know if we can get it back up. I might be putting too much pressure on production here, but that one graphic where we talked a little bit about the gold lead at 15 for both these teams, it illustrates it perfectly. It illustrates these two styles of comp perfectly. Misfits Premier are super good in the early game. They push their advantages, they get the plates, they funnel gold into their team, and they accelerate. AGO Rogue, they sit back, they don't contest, they farm up, and they look to get to late game power spikes. But Misfits Premier are just too good to let that type of comp work out for them. And they are absolutely within a finger's breadth of winning this game.
One of the most dominating games I think we would see so far, especially considering the opposition they're up against. There's a lot of mismatches in the E-Masters when you've got teams coming through from major regions and minor regions, or as far as like regional leagues are concerned. You've got like big powerhouse regions and regions that we don't have as high expectations for. Sometimes those matches are a little bit one-sided, but a game like this against the #1 Polish seed, the defending champions in AGO Rogue, this is a very, very one-sided game, and Misfits Premier, not even the first seed coming out of their region. The LFL is looking so terrifying here. Calming Core as well when they get to...
Oh no, Luck is forced away from the tower already.
That's not
there is no counterplay, especially when a poke comp is this far ahead. There's very little you can do, and they're threading the needle. Chres taken low. They cannot even defend this tower. You can see Lurox looking for the engage. It is a last chance saloon, but Shlatan just solos Chres on the back line. This monster fake bear is taking names, and he is running AGO Rogue down. Misfits Premier in such a strong spot. Oh, Shlatan fed him to the wolves, mate. Pyrka, you fed him to the wolves. And Agresivoo and the rest of Misfits Premier will just push down these towers. They have won this game in a much more convincing fashion. And Misfits Premier will get the 2-0 versus the Ultra League in Group B. And they'll find themselves 3-1 in a very, very good spot to exit into the playoffs.
Misfits Premier putting on a clinic in that game. Like, we all knew they were a solid early game team, but they weren't quite able to transition early game into clean and smooth mid game and late game. This game just completely shattered that. Honestly, that is the cleanest, the smoothest transition I've seen from a winning early game into a 1 mid game. Just if they're able to keep it up like that, and like we say, this was against the Polish #1. This is not easy competition. This is very tough competition. To me, I look at that and I think, wow, that is a team that can win it all.
And I think a lot of analysts talked about the strength of the relative regions. You get a lot of hype about relative regions coming into the European Masters, and a lot of what I'd say like impartial analysts, they'll kind of give their viewpoints. But the one resounding thread that I pulled from all the analysts talking on Twitter was that the LFL was the region this time round. The LFL is the region to beat in this European Masters, and if Misfits Premier and Carmine Corps are anything to go by, that is absolutely the case. These guys look scary, absolutely scary. Now, we've got one more game coming up, as I have to do a little bit of analysis on this one. It is going to be Misfits Premier versus SupUp. Now, SupUp did get the better of them in that previous engagement. Can they do it again, Foxy? I'm not sure. Misfits Premier look very good. They look like they're on form today, but of course, we'll have to see how that goes. Now, when we are back from a very short break, myself and Foxy will look a little bit deeper into that game before we move on to our third of the day. We'll see you soon.
I was driving late to feel the current running from your lane. I got no brakes, so keep the voltage flowing in my veins, my veins. And I'm falling through flickering lights. I'm falling through flickering lights, yeah. Good things always happen after.
ring.
Welcome back to the European Masters. That was a clinical display by Misfits Premier, putting them at 3-1 in the group. Now, I have been tracking the remaining scenarios that we have for the outcome of Group B. Now, there are 16 remaining scenarios as far as I can see. And in 10 of those, Misfits Premier come first place. So with that win there over AGO Rogue, Misfits Premier are in a very good spot to exit the group in the top place. There are very few scenarios where they don't actually make it through at all. So I'm super excited to see Misfits Premier do well here, because I think they have looked the strongest team in our group, just the way that they play that early game. And Foxy, that is the name of the game for them. Their early game is pretty filthy.
It's absolutely vile, mate. The way the leads they're able to get and just the way they're able to snowball the lead, specifically in this game, was really, really impressive. And I think it's the one criticism we may have had of this squad coming into week 2. Yeah, they're great early game, but they're not necessarily great at holding on to those leads and not giving Misfits fans heart attacks, basically. But I don't think there were too many heart attacks being given in this game at all, to be honest with you. I think Misfits were just clean from start to finish. The way that they played the lane was great. Their map movements was superb. Matching up the jungler with their bot lane was absolutely phenomenal. The best they could have done, honestly. Like, that's just top class right there. And just these team fights, like, sure, Rogue tried. They tried their best, and Rogue are not at no slouch, and they're pretty good at their team fighting. But when you're this far ahead as Misfits, it's just not to be.
Yeah, I think, regardless of what your team comp is supposed to do, when you're staring down a 7k gold lead, you're probably not going to be doing very well. And so it was Misfits Premier just able to accelerate the game really nicely. And also, as we mentioned, Woolite able to play a more team fight orientated build with the on-hit Varus rather than the straight up lethality Varus, which gave them a little extra edge to their gameplay. And as you can see, the gold difference over time, just nothing really, a very minor blip about 6 minutes into the game where Rogue were able to take a minor lead. But other than that, it's been Misfits from the very start, and they were able to just run from that mid game and take over the game.
And I think as well, right from the draft, you can see the bans. There were 4 AD carry bans coming through from Misfits, able to really pinch Rogue's champion pool and force FLICKR onto a champion, onto the Sivir. And we haven't seen him play the Sivir yet, and I don't think it was a problem at all, to be perfectly honest with you. But either way, I think FLICKR's been the best performing member of Rogue. So anytime you're able to take them off of comfort, I think it's always a benefit for you. And when Rogue had scaling like they did, Sivir, Orianna, plus frontline, that's a scaling game. And if you're losing that hard early on, then you're probably not going to be able to scale, and Misfits didn't let them.
Yeah, I actually, you saw Shlatan as well, just given the priority he had in the bot lane and then, elements of priority mid lane and top lane, he was able to just completely dominate the early game jungle versus Hecarim. I think I remember you saying specifically, this CS lead is not the way this matchup should go. You shouldn't be getting this far behind as Hecarim versus an Udyr. You should be able to keep pace, but Shlatan was able to just make that happen.
Yeah, there was a great start there from Shlatan with his pathing, and then helped out by his bot lane. And you can see the standings now. We've played a 4th game so far. G2 Arctic were able to pick up their first win of E-Masters group stage against Sup-Up. And obviously, as we just saw, Misfits Premier beating out Rogue. So they now take the sole position of first. Here are, I should say, it's better English, our remaining games for today. The next game we'll be watching is Misfits Premier versus Sup-Up. Now, don't forget, the Sup-Up actually beat Misfits. That is Misfits' only loss so far in the group stage, was to that squad. And that was a very entertaining game. Sure, Misfits got ahead early and did Misfits things, but can't count out Sup-Up. And if they do want to make a pretty crazy run out of group stage and make it to the knockouts, the first time the Bolgans have done so in 3 years, then yeah, they're looking to repeat that against the strongest team in the group.
Yeah, I mean, they have every opportunity to do so. Like we said, if Misfits lose here, then Sup-Up have got a good shot at threatening a group stage exit and maybe knocking out one of our favorites in the form of AGO Rogue. The defending... Can I just reiterate? AGO Rogue are defending champions. For them to exit in the group stage would be a huge loss for both themselves and the Ultra Liga. We've never had back-to-back champions in the European Masters. It's not been done before. So like if Ago Rogue was somehow able to get it together and then threaten for a back-to-back, that would be European Masters' first time history. If they were to exit in the group stages, then it's never bloody happening, right? So I mean, Sup have a real shot here to cause upset and potentially get themselves out of the group stage, because this European Masters has seen some flair from what we would usually consider minor regions. Like I'm specifically thinking of Makers from the PG Nats. Like they have been on it in Group A. Like they've really been throwing spanners everywhere. So I think, you know, we've got a European Masters where we could genuinely see some of these minor region teams step up and actually cause a lot of upset. And as you said, Sup beat Misfits Premier last time. They actually have the win in this matchup so far. And we'll see. I mean, Misfits Premier look like they're on one today. They look like they are absolutely storming. But Sup have got that kind of X Factor style, you know, with like the random comp that we saw with the Kane jungle. Like those kind of things can pop off and just accelerate for the game for you. So I'm really excited, Foxy, to see how this matchup plays out. Honestly,
it'll be a good one.
It really is. Speaking of, it's coming your way pretty soon. We've got a very short break, and when we're back, we should be jumping into that game between Misfits Premier and Sup.